Okay, everyone, hello and welcome to Equine Episode Examination, where today we will be talking about 28 pranks later. Let me just make sure everything's set up. Okay, should be good. So yeah, welcome to Equine Episode Examination. I am Rain Shadow, and I'm joined today by Mr. Ben here.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
And
Jay Smith is going to be joining us here shortly, but he's running a little late, so he'll be with us as soon as possible.
should be very soon. Okay, there we go. Got that changed over. So anyway, I'll just start out here with some of the normal stuff we normally do. So if this is your first time watching us or joining us here live, we're just going to talk about this past weekend's new episode of MLP, and kind of just give our opinions on it, give our kind of initial thoughts on it, how we feel about it, and both us in the call and everyone here in chat as well. So please ask questions, give us your answers, tell us how you feel about the show. So that's about it, and we'll let's just get right into it. Just there we go. Let me run and change something really quick. But first off, let's just everyone start off with what their initial thoughts on the episode. What did everyone think about it?
Well, I have to admit, when I first saw the synopsis for the episode, I'm like thinking to myself, great, we have Ne'er-do-well 2.0 right on the bend here. And to a degree, that's slightly kind of what we got, but I do have to admit, there are some minor issues with Ne'er-do-well that they didn't do during that episode that I think this episode actually covered and got right. Back in Ne'er-do-well, I don't think anyone ever really stopped to speak to Dash and say, hey, you're taking this a little too far. You might want to dial it back a bit before going in with the Ne'er-do-well costumes. But here they actually get Pinky to try to get her to speak to Dash and try to maybe even talk to her about her pranking and say, hey, you know what? This isn't, right. You really should be focusing, or not really focusing. They're basically trying to stage like a sort of an intervention to try to get her to stop, or at least dial it back. And it's only when Dash refuses to back down, that's when they decide, okay, you know what, let's go ahead and teach her a bit of a lesson, feed her a taste of her own medicine, if you will.
Pretty much for my initial thoughts on the episode, without diving too much into it. I enjoyed it. I think that it did a lot of things right, and there were some things I didn't. I have a little bit of issues with some other things in it. Obviously, we'll be talking a lot about both what Mr. Ben said with the Mysterious Ne'er-do-well back in Season 2, but also Griffin the Brush-Off, although back in Episode 4 of Season 1, which also dealt with a lot of things similar to what we're dealing with here in this episode. I think overall it was a really good, enjoyable episode, especially on its own. Had a lot of fun moments in it. A lot of fun times and good humor, and just a good moments between Pinky and Rainbow Dash as well. That's pretty much all I have to say. Without getting too much far into it, for my overall initial thoughts. Yeah, definitely one of the, I wouldn't say it's the lightest, but definitely one of the lighter episodes of the season. Nothing too heavy. Definitely felt more of a kind of. I hate seeing like it felt like an earlier season 1, season 2 episode, because that's not really true anymore. I mean those kind of episodes happen all the time, but these kind of episodes were a lot more populous, I guess, in the first 2 seasons of the show versus latter seasons. So, yes. Advance it here. So, what does everyone think about the story and the writing? This was written by a new writer who was just like had a ton of initials in their name, and I completely forget it. It was the story for it was written by was thought up, I guess, by Megan McCarthy, who has the story credit for this episode. But the actual writer was a new episode. Someone can look that up. I'm not in a good position to do that right now. I just saw it too before the episode. What was that?
Already on it. I'm trying to look it up myself.
I guess remembered it was like 3 initials in it or something like that.
Someone in the chat room is more than likely going to beat me to it. But
I will say one of the first points, one of the things I really noticed when I just rewatched this episode. I didn't have time over the weekend, but I just rewatched this episode literally just before we started here. So I don't have any notes today, so hopefully I'm probably going to miss a lot of things I should say and be a little more disorganized in my thoughts because I didn't have time to make any notes this weekend. But I did... one of the things I noticed when rewatching it that I liked is this episode was really like perfectly paced. It fit a good amount, but not too much into the 22-minute time frame. Oh. It didn't feel like the episode was rushing through, like all of a sudden we were at the end. But it also didn't feel like it was dragging on a lot. It wasn't one of those episodes where so much is happening that you get to like 5 minutes left in the episode. It's like, oh my gosh, it just felt like we just started. Yeah. And it wasn't one that dragged on or anything or was boring. I really felt the pacing was right. It goes from each point, from the setup to the pranking to the revenge and the whole zombie aspect in the final act there, to the resolution, and a very nice pace. And I really did like that about the episode. And something I really did notice on a second watch through. Yeah, FWD Marco. Yeah, I believe that was
Yeah, Technotron actually got it. Yeah.
He wrote a few other things. I don't have it up. I did look up the IMDb on Saturday, and I forget. But he has written a few other things. Someone can probably look that up and post in the chat.
That's what I'm trying to do, but for some stupid reason, I'm getting like 8-second advertisements on the fucking mobile site.
Thanks IMDb. You're the best.
It's not IMDb. I'm looking it up. It's the actual Friendship is Magic wiki.
Oh, even worse. They actually do make ad block for mobile, as far as I know. You should be able to get it.
That's what I was trying to use, but it's like every time I'm like has like a standalone whatchamacallit, it doesn't seem to be working all that well.
Yeah, I know. Anyway. Yeah, he worked for Little's Pet Shop, and there was something a few episodes of Little Pet Shop, and there were a few other things that I knew of. At least I had heard of before. It wasn't one of the writers' words. Like I never heard of anything they wrote before. It was some other animation things.
Excuse me.
Hi, I'm Jay Smith, and I'm dangerously late.
There he is. How's it going?
There he is. Say previous writing credits include Littlest Pet Shop, Dragons, Riders of Berk, Dragons.
That's what it
Race
was.
to
That's
the
what
Edge,
it was. Yeah.
And Freaky Robots.
He was one of the staff writers on the How to Train Your Dragon TV series. That's the one I was forgetting of. One of the things, and I'll kind of get into what Everlasting Joy is talking about there, and one of the things that sort of I felt a disconnect. I guess I'll start off by saying one of the things that I think was really strong and weak in this episode, at the same time, depending on the situation, was the use of continuity, specifically with Griffin the Brush-Off, also with Mare Duell as well, but more Griffin the Brush-Off. One of the things that kind of got me when I'm thinking is this whole episode obviously is about pranking and Rainbow Dash going overboard with said pranking and people not liking it. Pretty much as a self-contained episode in itself, I really didn't have any major issues with that. But when you kind of look back in past event in the past couple episodes that relate to this episode, there's a few disconnects that kind of bothered me a little bit. Not much. I mean, it's nothing major that, I hate this episode, 0 out of 10 kind of stuff. But stuff I was just kind of thinking in the back of my head. Like, in Griffin the Brush-Off, back in Season 1, we also see Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie pranking other ponies. And a lot of the same ponies as well, like Rarity, Applejack, etc. And I rewatched parts of that episode today, as well as Mare-Duel, at the same time I was watching this one, and a lot of the pranks don't seem that different, but the reactions from the ponies are very different. They're in Griffin the Brush-Off, all the ponies they're pranking in town, they're a little annoyed at first. They kind of like that, you fool me once kind of thing, but then they're able to laugh it off very quickly at the end as a prank. But here, all of them get so defensive and offended. And I can understand, obviously, Fluttershy at the beginning, but all of the other ones, I don't know, it seems like a lot of them just get a little, they don't revel in it. And some of the pranks, go a little overboard, and I can understand it, but not all of them. Like, I mean, I think the cake prank with Rarity was hilarious, replacing her sewing machine with a cake sewing machine. I mean, it's not mean-spirited, it's not evil, it's not damaging, it's just kind of a funny prank, and it's very similar to the kind of pranks that were shown in Griffin the Brush-Off as well.
And so much that she also, replaced the sewing machine. It's also that she did like a full bait and switch too, where she had a giant cake in the middle of the room with Sweetie Belle's Philly Scout outfit on top of it, and they expect the first one to be booby trapped. Mm-hmm. And it's only when they go over to the sewing machine that's the actual prank in and of itself. So not only did she prank her once, she kind of doubled up and got her twice in one go.
Yeah.
I will say to this, even though that some may argue that Dash may have kind of forgot maybe a couple of things in regards to, like, say, when she was pranking Fluttershy, that you really shouldn't prank her. She's sort of off limits to pranks because she's so sensitive on this. At the same time, I kind of have to agree with Tim in the chat room here, who says, like, well, Rainbow Dash may know where that line is, but she doesn't hesitate to cross it. And unless she's held back. I
kind of disagree there, because I really do feel, and that was the other part that I was going to get to, that the second part of the episode that sort of irked me was the cold open with him pranking Fluttershy and her reaction to it. I just feel that after 6 seasons, I just feel that Rainbow Dash would know better than to do that, especially something that crazy towards Fluttershy, especially in Griffin the Brush-Off, when we see that she is about to prank Fluttershy there. Pinkie reminds her that that's too much, and she agrees. I don't know, it just feels like after all of that, starting with Fluttershy just seems too much. And again, it's one of those things that when you look at this episode as itself, it's not really that big of a deal. It doesn't really harm the episode itself that much, but when you look at it in the broader sense of the characters and the character development of the show, I just feel that Rainbow Dash at this point in the show would know better and avoid doing that to Fluttershy. Maybe not anyone else in Ponyville, but I just feel that that's something that wouldn't have happened.
Probably a bit of the fact that this is a new writer. So,
but see, but that's kind of what confused me is something I want to get to in a bit after we're done discussing this. Is I feel like there was a lot of great continuity things in this episode that the writer did as well with Griffin the Brush-Off and Mare-Duel, and there was a lot of really good continuity as well. So it's just kind of I guess that whole scene just kind of irked me a little bit, just because of that.
It's the only thing I could think of is that it was just done simply for the sake of the story. Continuity be damned.
It pretty much was. I mean, and like I said, it's not a huge issue. It's not one of those 0 out of 10 worst episode ever, burn the writer kind of thing. It was just one of those things that it definitely hit me when I was watching that scene. I just didn't see Rainbow Dash doing that there. No, she is not a Megan McCarthy was not the supervising writer. Megan McCarthy just came up with the story idea. So there's two things. Pretty much the person that comes up with the story comes up with the basic premise of the episode, and sometimes also comes up with the outline of it. And then it's up to the writer to fill in all the details and actually write the episode. So it isn't like she was overviewing and watching over the episode and every detail of it or anything like that. She just came up with the original premise, which is probably Rainbow Dash is pranking a little too much. Pranks go overboard, and it's up to the rest, up to Pinkie Pie and the rest of the main six to kind of rein her in and teach her a lesson about that.
Here and the problems that we've discussed thus far. I have noticed that throughout the series, Rainbow Dash has apparently picked up a trick from Pinkie. I mean, if you've noticed, Rainbow Dash is like a goddamn ninja during her pranks.
It's funny enough. That's pretty much how Griffin the Brush Off starts up, with her trying to avoid Pinkie, who's being all ninja like and being Pinkie. Oh my god, 2,000%, 200% peeved.
Yeah, I just couldn't help but laugh at like how basically just Rainbow Dash was effectively just channeling Pinkie Pie, and just showing up at like the most unlikely of places. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna save for those for when we get to the humor section.
Now, with all that stuff I mentioned about some of the things that I disliked a little bit about the episode, there was a lot of things that the writer did continuity-wise that I really did like with it. First, this is kind of a Pinkie Pie Rainbow Dash episode, more or less, and I liked how he was able to involve Pinkie Pie in this, and have Pinkie Pie the one that was kind of planning to ultimate prank Rainbow Dash and get her back, because that's really good continuity back with Griffin the Brush Off, where Pinkie Pie is the one that's kind of starting and doing some of the pranks in that, and then she brings Rainbow Dash in, and they kind of bond in that episode over pranking other ponies in Ponyville. So it makes sense to have Pinkie come back in this episode and kind of be that other end, as trying to rein in Rainbow Dash as her pranks start to get a little out of control, and being the one that's trying to tell her that she needs to stop, or think more about her pranks, while at the same time being like, oh, that sounds so funny, and having to rein herself back in. I think Pinkie was really great in this episode in that aspect. And they also kind of, there's some other things that you almost could write off of the episode, but it's saved by the character casting, and that's like the whole kind of third act of the episode is somehow the entire town is able to get together and prank Rainbow Dash, which kind of seems out of left field, and I can see people complaining about, especially in other shows, that the whole town gets together to prank Rainbow Dash. Just the amount of effort and coordination involved for them to be able to do that, and you can kind of almost knock the episode for it until you realize this is Pinkie Pie who's setting this up, and it's also what makes the episode, the kind of casting choices, I guess you could say, for the episode so great in terms of Pinkie Pie's the one that's putting together this prank and getting involved and getting everyone involved. So it makes sense that, well, she's one of the other master prankers, so she's the one who could pull off this master prank, and she knows everyone in Ponyville, and of course we all know from our friend Indeed and stuff how she can get everyone in town together to do stuff, and also a magical mystery cure, how everyone kind of looks to her and stuff. So it makes sense that she would be able to do that in the context of this series.
I actually did see a couple of possible fan ideas in the meantime, or between now and last Saturday, about Rainbow Dash even seeing through the trick and countering the town prank with a prank of her own. in a way, I kind of can't help but feel it might be interesting if Rainbow Dash had seen through this, and they probably would have even escalated it even more. But that would have just dragged on too long, and I'm glad that they cut it off when they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gotta say that we actually have a zombie episode in My Little Pony. That's pretty funny. I think overall it was pulled off very well, especially in that last act. Actually, a little frightening, especially for this show, with that. But they were able to inject a good amount of humor in terms of, I guess it's kind of a little bit of slapstick and just the ridiculousness of them all coming after cookies. One funny thing that I did see someone posted online was a plot point that could have been would be that the reason that all of them were coming after Rainbow Dash in that scene, the reason could have been that they were all attracted to Rainbow Dash's rainbow colored mane and thought it was a cookie. I kind of like that little story idea. It would have been funny to see somehow weave into the episode.
Because if they thought her hair was a cookie, that would end up meaning they'd be eating her brains.
Cookie.
I once heard about zombie, ponies like this, and that they wouldn't be moaning out that they want brains. They'd be like going, grains, while like trying to seek out for like feed bags and stuff.
Oh, that's just every normal every day in Ponyville.
Yeah. Alternative, you could probably utilize the same instead of having the sort of cookies or anything like that. You could just have like Rainbow Dash sort of like afflicted with the want it needed spell applied directly to her.
In terms of the cake, keep in mind she is friends with Pinkie Pie, so Pinkie Pie may have helped her with the giant cake.
Maybe.
Her house is made of clouds, though, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of like she probably built the house herself. I wouldn't be surprised.
Tim's comment here, like, already best cupcake here. There was a point that was made that I saw that could potentially be a sort of a tongue-in-cheek nod to the cupcakes reference. That infamous fanfic. Because, Pinkie does, sort of, help pull a prank on Rainbow Dash involving rainbow color, rainbow flavored sweets or something like that. So,
She took out a loan. The prank was worth that much to her.
now I'm just getting the mints having connections.
Well, she is a Wonderbolt now. I'm sure she can call in some favors.
Yeah.
I'm sure Rainbow Dash has many loans. Yeah, but like I said, it's made of clouds. She probably just built it herself. Yeah, I'm sure. No matter what, though, I'm sure Wonderbolt pay is pretty. It must be pretty good.
Yeah, it was, and that's Diamond Tiara's father, I think.
Mr. Ben, are you trying to say that Rainbow Dash is having an affair with Stinking Rich?
No, I'm saying that Rainbow Dash is, with Saul mentioning that Rainbow Dash is stinking rich. I'm thinking, okay, there's either some sort of time travel shenanigans going on here, or something isn't what it appears. Because if Stinking Rich is Diamond Tiara's grandfather, but Rainbow Dash is a mare, then maybe I'm overthinking this.
I don't even know what you're thinking anymore.
It's just my mind is of a minefield when it comes to this sort of weird things.
I think the whole setup to the final act with the zombie chase was pulled off really nicely in this as well. They kind of hint at it a little bit going forward. It isn't just all of a sudden everyone is just zombies. Pinky's able to kind of slowly make it happen as she, when Rainbow Dash checks up on her in her room in the Sugar Cube corner, and she's sick there, kind of hinting that something might be wrong with the cookies. I will say another criticism I saw that I can also sort of agree with is Rainbow Dash was a little too quick to shrug off Pinky being violently ill. She didn't seem that concerned about it at all. And I know she's really focused on her prank, which makes sense, but I feel that she should have been at least a little concerned. No, it didn't seem like that to me, but whatever. This episode was able to really kind of build up some actual, real horror tension in it. And not really in a terrible kind of jokey way either. As we get through there, past that scene, and kind of the town becomes deserted, and we start seeing ponies, shadows of ponies walking through the windows, and eventually you get to the CMC and their sisters finishing the cookie delivery. It's just it's some nice build up in that scene as Rainbow Dash starts to kind of lose it and realize something's wrong. Yeah, something a little more... it definitely seemed like something was a little bit more wrong with Pinky there. She laid it on pretty thick, too, though. I really did like it. As we kind of get to the end there, it did start going a little over the top and in a very kind of tropey way that I liked. When we get to the barn scene and they're all barricaded up there, and it actually is pretty kind of a pretty intense scene, especially for My Little Pony. Yeah, I can only imagine some of the younger viewers might actually be a little scared with that. But we get to that end, and they're all gathered up in there. and eventually it's just like, I think it was Rarity that's like, but we already ate the cookies too, and now we're all zombies. And then suddenly they're all zombies. It was it was one of those little over the top kind of twist things that you see sometimes in like bad horror movies, and I like that little bit of comedy where suddenly, no, we actually did eat the cookies. Now we're also zombies.
Isn't repercussions of evil thing or something like that? Rainbow Dash cried out, "I must defeat the demons." "No," Rarity said, "Rainbow Dash, you are the demons." And then Rainbow Dash was a zombie.
End scene. I think we can all agree after this episode, Pinky is best pranker. Best pranker in Equestria, definitely Pinky. I was like, all I could think of during this episode was it's not a prank, bro. I was waiting for Rainbow, or it's just a prank, bro. I was waiting for Rainbow Dash to say that at some point. Going back to this, I saw someone mention this earlier in chat. Yeah, that, talking about the pranks, and I was making my comments earlier. The one with the freaking brick, that was over the top. That was too much, Rainbow Dash. That was probably the worst one.
Yes, it was bad because it was a brick joke.
Huh.
I don't know. That may be a little too much also for Rainbow Dash. I don't know. I think she would know better than put a brick in someone's sandwich. Oh my gosh.
I hope she's prepared to pay the dental bills if he broke any teeth.
Yeah, poor Mr. Cake, man. I was like, there goes his mouth. And, yeah, they even got the cake kids to play along with the zombie. I don't know how they managed to do that.
I say them babies must be exceptionally intelligent to play along with this gag here.
Especially when the last the episode where they introduced, man, they couldn't even sit still.
Yeah. It's also just the pest removal is.
I will say, while some of that episode idea holds some merit, I think the show should be kind of done with pranks. We've had like 2 episodes with pranks. I think that's enough. Oh yeah, the cranky one was pretty. Yeah, that's pretty stinky too. That's when your pranks started going a little over the top there.
There we go. But yeah, as I was saying, I mean, not only just with the issue with Cranky with having his wig replaced with a skunk, just the fact that you saw the skunk just sort of spread. Well, sort of off screen, but you could tell through the window that Cranky got sprayed. I mean, if you ever got hit with skunk spray, man, that if anything you ever wore, like say your shirt or anything, got hit with that shit's ruined. There's no getting that smell out.
Now, just imagine when that gets in your hair and your fur.
Yeah.
Poor skunks always smell like that.
Yeah.
One thing, and this is something that Mr. Ben kind of spoke about in introduction, but like I said, the other episode that this episode relates to in the past would be Mysterious Mare-de-Well. This episode was kind of a combination of both Griffin the Brush-Off and Mysterious Mare-de-Well. It was revolved around some pranking, like the beginning of Griffin the Brush-Off, and has a lot of similarities with it being a Pinkie Pie and Rainbow Dash centered episode. But then it also has a lot of similarities with Mysterious Mare-de-Well, where we've already kind of visited a lot of these plot points as well, in terms of the rest of the main sticks sort of trying to teach Rainbow Dash a lesson by giving her a taste of her own medicine. Now, of course, Mysterious Mare-de-Well was the episode where Rainbow Dash was getting a little too cocky and being a hero, and so they kind of went to took her down a notch by creating the Mysterious Mare-de-Well to save other ponies and place her and make her jealous, and kind of get jealous of all of Mysterious Mare-de-Well's gloating. So this episode obviously did something similar, with all of Ponyville coming together to teach Rainbow Dash a lesson about how pranking can be harmful. especially when the person being pranked doesn't want it, or if the prank is too harsh, by doing essentially the same thing by coming together and pulling a fast one on her the same way she did to them. I will say, like Mr. Ben said, I agree that one of this episode's strengths was that it was able to do the Mysterious Mare-de-Well formula, but do it a lot better than Mysterious Mare-de-Well did. I'm not one of the major haters of Mysterious Mare-de-Well. I found it to be a pretty enjoyable episode in a lot of aspects, especially in a lot of like the superhero references and stuff. Not to say it was a perfect episode. I think a lot of the hate directed toward it is a little too much. But I can't agree with some of the criticisms leveled at it in terms of how the main six react to trying to teach Rainbow Dash a lesson, and I think that is rectified in this episode. And pretty much it comes down to just communication. In Mysterious Mare-de-Well, pretty much Rainbow Dash is progressively saving people and things, and obviously taking some credit for it. And then she gets a little too gloated, and her ego keeps inflating and inflating and inflating, and the main six see this, and they don't like it, and they start to become annoyed. But never once in that episode do they actually are they shown actually talking really to Rainbow Dash and explaining that, hey, what you're doing is kind of annoying. We don't like it. You're getting a little too boastful, a little too egotistical about it. They just go right to the root of, well, let's just make this Mysterious Mare-de-Well and teach her a lesson. This episode did it a lot. I think did that same kind of concept, but did it a lot better, because we do see the main six multiple times speaking up to Rainbow Dash, saying, especially just right after the cold open, saying, what you did is a little too much. It's too over the top. You shouldn't do that, especially to Fluttershy or to someone who really doesn't want to be pranked. And we go throughout the episode, she's told multiple times before, up to where Pinkie finally confronts her, and, Rainbow Dash just isn't having any of it. She's going to go ahead with his biggest prank, and not even Pinkie Pie is able to talk her out of it. And so it makes the town, main six, and the town's and Pinkie's actions seem a lot more justified, because they try to go into the root of telling Rainbow Dash, hey, you're doing something wrong, you need to stop doing this, and she didn't listen. So it makes more sense for them to kind of go to this, well, let's give her her own medicine. And I think that's, one of the things that people really disliked about Mysterious Mare-de-Well, is the main six are so quick to take that, teach her a lesson, give her some of her own medicine route without actually talking to her first, which I can understand, and I think this episode did that a lot better.
Will say this. I don't know how they would have been able to fit it in, but it would have been an interesting callback if they had somehow made some sort of reference to the Mare-de-Well incident in the episode. I don't think they did in this one.
No, I mean there wasn't really any other than that. It was just kind of the same kind of concept. Although those pictures that Draconis Media is posting in the chat about Celestia, with all those scrolls. Funny enough, when I was watching Griffin the Brush-Off, rewatching Griffin the Brush-Off today, they did the same. They did this very similar joke in that episode. I guess continuity maybe, or just a coincidence. But in that episode, Pinkie Pie goes to prank Spike as he's coming out and kind of gets Rainbow Dash to scare him with a lightning cloud, giving him the hiccups. And as he gets hiccups, he keeps accidentally sending these scrolls to Celestia, and it cuts to a shot of her just being buried under all these scrolls. And here we got kind of doing a similar joke here. So I don't know if that's an intentional callback or just accidentally using the same kind of joke twice. But I found it kind of funny rewatching that, because I completely forgot they did something similar in Griffin the Brush-Off.
Now that I think about it, that picture of Celestia sort of poking her head and neck out of that giant sea of scrolls is with that facial expression. She's like, "Didn't this happen before?" Or that sort of
not again.
Not again. Yeah, not again.
Expression. This is the last time, Spike. We will never see Spike again. It might have been a pointless endeavor, but I still think it's something that should have been important to see in Mysterious Mare-de-Well, just in terms of a lesson standpoint. with it. It's obvious that Rainbow Dash probably would have denied it or just shoved it to the side and said, "Oh, don't worry about that." And they would have had to go the same route in Mysterious Mare-de-Well. But it just making them not even try to confront her, I can see where people can complain about it in terms of sending that kind of message to kids where, hey, if someone's doing wrong, just get them back with some of their own medicine. Don't even try to talk to them. I can see where people have problems with that. Like I said, I don't have that major issue with that episode, and it's really enjoyable in a lot of other parts. But I can understand criticisms leveled at that part of the episode. So, I mean, credit to this episode, because I did see a lot of people going into this episode saying, oh, they're going to do the same thing as Mare-de-Well. Ooh, worst episode ever, even though I haven't seen it yet. And this episode did do something similar, but it did it better, so yeah. I mean, we can just avoid Mysterious Mare-de-Well if we want, but I mean, like I said, there's nothing wrong with talking about it, and I think it relates to this episode a lot in terms of plot, so that's why I kind of wanted to talk about it. So I will respectfully disagree with you there in terms of talking about Mysterious Mare-de-Well. Nothing wrong with that, Everlasting Joy. Nothing wrong with that at all. I think that's. I wish more people would have the sentiment you have there, in terms of disagreements. It would make life a lot easier. I think that's one of the most important things in terms of criticism. At least trying to understand where people are coming from, even if you disagree. Oh yeah. I know. I agree. We don't have to stay on that topic much longer. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt that Radio Dog. Twilight definitely got off the easiest in terms of her pranks, but also that's probably one of the funniest ones. I just want to have like Applejack or one of the other main six after that happens saying, "Not again, Twilight. Come on, not at the table." Yeah, it would kind of be a close tie between Pinky and that. It kind of depends, because I think the prank itself was probably easier on Twilight, but it was also kind of around a bunch of her friends where Pinkie Pie was just kind of alone with her Rainbow Dash and gummies, so. That whole kind of Bat Pony Rainbow Dash in the closet was hilarious, though.
Wasn't just so much that she was also in Pinky's closet, but the fact that Gummy was there next to her, too. I love that.
Yeah, Tetratron, they were similar. I mean, I guess maybe that's just, I don't know if they took inspiration from that or just because they're both based on kind of the Girl Scout uniforms, which obviously is going to make them look similar no matter what. Yeah, that was kind of what I said earlier about Rarity's prank. She was so like dumbfounded, like angry about it, but really, I think it was probably the best prank in terms of not being over the top and harmful, but having actually a good amount of effort put into it, unlike just a whoopee cushion or trying to scare Fluttershy. That was pretty good, having that giant cake and then having her go and know that she's going to just not even try and sew another costume, and she understands Rarity that much that she's just going to go sew another costume and then replace her sewing machine with an exact replica cake. That is a good prank, and Rarity really should have taken that in stride. Dash wins on that one.
Joy makes a good point in the chat room here too.
Who was that?
Although Everlasting Joy.
Oh yeah. That too. If someone pranked me with a giant cake, I'd be like, I don't care. I'm gonna eat the cake. And yeah, this is the first. This would be the first episode where we have a fart, I believe.
I actually had to facepalm at that because I was like, oh, seriously? Out of all the jokes and pranks they could have gone with that, they had to go for something lowbrow.
But the funny thing is, well, that's absolutely true. It actually fits with the story very well because the whole point is Rainbow Dash's jokes. She's not trying hard enough with her pranks, and so it's those.
That's true.
And so that's what takes her to the next level of all these other pranks leading up to this cookie prank.
You know, and you make a good point because, you know, all these jokes are meant to, like, sort of irritate and disgruntle these, you know, the rest of the, you know, ponies. So it kind of makes sense that something like that would probably, you know, make them upset.
Yeah, and even if you remember, even Twilight and Age, they were amused, and they point out that was just too cheap on Rainbow Dash's part to do that.
Nothing like the Princess of Fart Ship. Hey, kudos to the show for getting away with not having a fart joke for 6 seasons. And the only time they've used that fart joke here is in the context of actual, like, Rainbow Dash doing cheap pranks. So MLP, only the highest brows of comedy. So, any other thing with anything with the story and the writing? I think that was about all the points I can remember that I wanted to bring up. Anyone else have anything else they want to talk about in regards to the story or writing?
I do notice that this is the second time here that Starlight Glimmer is just mysteriously absent, which is kind of strange because there's no real reason for her to not be included, even as someone in the background.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much how they're treating Starlight is kind of how I thought they were probably going into this season, where she is going to be involved in a lot of things with the main six, but at the same time, and the season premiere set this up a good amount in terms of Twilight wants her to kind of get out on her own, find her own friends, and find her own way, and her own lessons about friendship, like Princess Celestia did to her. So we're going to see a lot of Starlight and a lot of Starlight-centered episodes, and a lot of her being kind of like a seventh main six. But at the same time, we're not going to see her every single episode with the main six, because they kind of set up that she's going to be out on her own doing her own things and finding her own way and not always be clinging to Twilight. So I like how they were able to set that up so it doesn't like seem totally weird that she's not here all the time.
And she may also be like in her old village, just dropping in on the previous four that we've seen earlier.
I really do want an episode with Starlight and those ponies from the village again. Yeah, I really. It seems like they're kind of being what they were setting up with the season 4 finale, kind of having Starlight be the secondary main six, and she's building her own kind of main six this season. So that way, we kind of have two main sixes, and they won't always be together.
Yeah, I just sort of kind of have the mental image that maybe Starlight just stayed in bed that day and she just didn't she got it for nothing.
And EJ, that's kind of what I was saying is that they've set it up in a way where it never feels like Starlight Glimmer should be here, because she has her own life, she has her own things that she's doing in her journey to friendship. So just because she isn't in an episode with the rest of the main six, it doesn't mean like they didn't set up this season where it's going to be Starlight Glimmer learning directly from Twilight all the time, and she's going to be her right there in class, in class learning from Twilight and be Twilight's kind of right hand mirror or anything like that. They set it up where Twilight was going to let her learn about friendship like she learned from Celestia and be a little bit, more distant and learn stuff on her own and look to Twilight for guidance. So they set it up in a nice way where they don't have to shove her in unnecessarily to every single episode, even if the rest of the main 6 are on it. There wasn't really anything in this episode that screamed that Starlight needed to be there in terms of plot or anything like that. I mean, yeah, it would have been someone else to prank, I guess, but I guess, would have been putting her in to put her in. Are you happy, Starlight haters? She's not in every episode. Okay, so let me advance this. And kind of already talked about some of this already, but we can see if there's anyone else has anything to say about the characters and the characterization of those characters in the episode. We can start with Rainbow Dash if we want. What does everyone have to say about Rainbow Dash in this episode?
That I just looked up here that could possibly also be about the whole whatchamacallit, her pranking Fluttershy in the beginning of the episode. She might have also genuinely believed that Fluttershy grew enough over 5.5 seasons of character development to handle being pranked, which is probably also why she went ahead and got her at the beginning of the episode. But then again, she also may not just have cared because she thinks Fluttershy's timidness, if you will, kind of takes the fun out of events such as like Nightmare Night. So, but that's just a not, again, I don't want to revisit that particular issue. I just happened to come across this and like, oh, hey, that's something I didn't consider.
And that's a fair point, I guess. But at the same time, when you think that if that's the case, and you think she would realize pretty quickly that, oh, I guess she wasn't ready, and be more apologetic towards it rather than just kind of being more angry at Fluttershy for not being able to take it, and having Fluttershy have to have this kind of intervention to where she still doesn't accept that. And the only thing that's able to talk to Rainbow Dash in that scene is Rarity saying, "You're just, you're being lazy. You're going for the easy target," which also kind of in a way backpedals some of Fluttershy's development a little bit too. I guess calling her the easy target and stuff. I don't know. That kind of sat with me a little icky too. It's a good episode just to take taking Rainbow Dash down another peg in terms of her ego and her prank, how she likes to prank. It was nice. It was nice seeing in the end having this kind of turn back on her, and I really like the writing also in the ending where she's kind of spouting out all these things and realizes what she's saying is exactly what everyone else was saying to her at the beginning of the episode, in terms of, you're not even thinking about, how I felt about this, or, and I didn't like being, scared. This made me feel bad. And then kind of stopping in her own tracks. And I like how they did make her realize that herself in the end, instead of being explicitly told that, oh, well, touche, you got me there.
To say, yeah, I kind of like how not Fluttershy, but Rainbow Dash. Sorry about that. I didn't mean for this yawn to just sort of come out of nowhere. I did like how they, Rainbow Dash was sort of led to, have it sort of worked out through her to that. Oh, hey, yeah. Instead of actually having been told to her face, that she's like, oh, I see what you did there. Even though, Rainbow Dash's pranks were mean-spirited, this prank here that they pulled on Dash could have easily wound up going horribly wrong too.
Time for Rainbow Dash to bust out her shotgun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say Harry, best character in this episode, 10 out of 10. It's too bad Matt the Shadowman isn't here. I'd like to hear his opinion on the whole Fluttershy thing, being the Fluttershy aficionado that he is. Oh my god, that I am going to. I haven't had a chance to, but I did see that bongo drum image earlier, and that is going to become an offline image for us with some sound in the background. I just haven't had a chance yet to make that. That picture is great. Though. Is that actually animated or is that static? Oh, it is. Okay, it is a GIF. Okay, good. Excellent.
I have the same. I actually was gonna post that one earlier. The Fluttershy with the bongos.
That's one of my favorite GIFs to come out of this episode. Oh, no one actually you didn't actually post the GIF. I somehow got switched to the Crystal Empire chat and saw that you'd posted there earlier. I thought you posted that just now.
Sale. I'll post it here in myself.
Yeah, like that Harry the Bear image there. Just I'm watching you, Rainbow Dash.
Smokey the Bear stepping up his game.
How do you think she stays so calm all the time? Twice Magic. Her brother definitely seems like he has some. He probably has some. So. But yeah, I will say in terms of character, I really did enjoy seeing Harry the Bear kind of sticking up for Fluttershy a couple times in the episode. Nice to see that kind of side character friendship there. I guess we can move the discussion on to Pinkie Pie and her character if no one has anything else to say about Rainbow Dash.
Pinkie Pie is the master of pranks.
Mm-hmm. I think Pinkie Pie's character was really spot on. The only thing, and I keep coming back to the same problem, so I probably should stop. But I will say the only problem I have with Pinkie Pie's character is that she didn't seem that concerned that Rainbow Dash had pranked Fluttershy. She was very excited in that scene and didn't kind of share the same kind of concern. And the reason that irks me is because, it goes back to Griffin the Brush-Off, where Pinkie Pie was the one that stopped Rainbow Dash from pranking Fluttershy in that episode, saying, she's much too timid. And then, of course, Pinkie got really frustrated when Gilda kind of went off on Fluttershy later in the episode as well. So, I mean, Fluttershy, and that's one of the things I really liked about Griffin the Brush-Off is Pinkie was really into pranking and she did all these crazy pranks, but she knew she did have that limit, and she knew that Fluttershy was kind of off limits in terms of pranking because of her timidness. So I was kind of disappointed to not see her kind of express that concern more openly in that scene when we already kind of had her expressing that same concern before in a previous episode to Dash in regards of pranking Fluttershy. Other than that, I think Pinkie Pie was great in this episode. I think she was able to kind of overcome her need to prank in and see when Rainbow Dash is going over a limit and say that doesn't sound that fun. She's able to try and speak up to her friend, and she was able to and then come up with this genius kind of get back at you prank towards Rainbow Dash at the end of the episode. So I think otherwise Pinkie was great in this episode. There you go. Zephyr Breeze Tree Hugger. Let's make it canon show. Let's break some borders. If it fits, it ships. Piggy did a great job of her acting as well in this episode. Just all that fake sick acting that she did, and of course the zombie stuff. She was able to really put together a good show for Dash in that second half of the episode.
Andrea Lindman actually did sound kind of like she was sick almost. I mean, that's a mark of good acting right there.
Yeah, definitely. Andrea really did a nice job with this, making Piggy sound weak and sick, and then later, or when she was zombified, that was just amazing on her.
Perhaps Draconis Media. It's perhaps, but I feel that's really was a missed opportunity in the episode for Pinky's character to have her being more, more angry or vocal towards Dash about pranking Fluttershy there. Any other characters that anyone wants to talk about in the character discussion here that I'm missing? Or any general comments about the characterization in the episode?
I can't think of anything.
Just kind of waiting to see if anyone in the chat has anything to say before we move on. Because I don't really think I have anything else. We hit on pretty much everything, and we hit on a lot of it in the story part of it as well. Yeah, they did that job pretty well. You know, maybe they'll get their cutie marks in delivering cookies. Oh wait. It made sense for the plot. It was a nice kind of little plot point, I guess you could say, in terms of putting cookies in people's houses.
I just had the mental image of like a possible episode idea of the three as Philly Scouts and trying to sell like cookies, and their marketing tactics aren't going so well, so they decide, you know what, let's take another issue here, and then we see a shot from inside of a house where the door opens and the three of them are standing there on the porch, and one of them is holding a gun. I'm like, "Greetings, sir, madam. Would you like to buy some cookies?" Cocks the gun.
Buy the cookies. See, okay. So the next thing is the voice acting. We kind of already touched on a few things in terms of the voice acting. I really think that the best thing voice acting wise in this episode is definitely Andrea Lindman as Pinky, as zombie Pinky, and just like as soon as she starts getting sick, and that whole sick scene, and then later in the episode where she gets this like really deep voice, especially for Pinky. It's not like a voice that we've really heard from Pinky before. It's like, "Cookie,
I want cookies."
I mean, that was like a legit like zombie voice there. It sounded weird coming out of Pinky, but it definitely sounded like Andrea had a lot of fun doing that scene.
Yeah, Andrea pretty much just stole the show on this one here. Tabitha's usually queen of these episodes whenever like voice acting's involved. Whenever she's usually in on here, Tabitha usually just takes the cake on this one. But Pinky here baked it and just took it as well.
That's like the line that that Tara had as Twilight just after the scene at the kind of round table there where they're confronting Rainbow Dash, and Rainbow Dash flies away to try and unleash a bigger prank that involves more effort, and Twilight says something like I don't think she quite understood what we meant, and it just kind of cuts after that. I really like that kind of quick deadpan line delivery there.
Going back to what you said, how with Rarity being like, she's like, oh, by the way, no, we ate the cookies too, and now we're zombies as well. Tabitha's voice acting also kind of fits that particular scene as well. I mean, like she sounds perfectly normal, but then it's like, okay, then suddenly she's a zombie, like almost no like gradual. It's like she's normal once and then bam, infected the next.
Yeah, the whole comedic timing of that line was fantastic. Let's see. So now we can kind of move on from that and segue into the humor of the show. This episode did have a good amount of genre humor in terms of the zombies and some other stuff. So what did everyone like about this episode's humor?
I just say that I love the fact that yet another meme was sort of born out of this episode, and I just can't help but laugh at the fact that Applejack waking up in bed next to someone has kind of become like the new joke.
Oh, did it? I haven't really been following anything this week, so that was pretty. That pretty. When that scene got me, I was like, oh my god.
To say, just the fact. Okay, this is actually one of my favorite pranks out of the whole episode. Now, the cake issue one that I loved a lot was the the one where we mentioned on that one where we thought that gigantic cake was booby trapped, only it turns out that no, it's perfectly fine. It was the sewing machine that got replaced. The fact that we had Applejack just sort of completely having a bunch, like, how can I explain this? I mean, she's got her entire bedroom set up with pots, pans, cans, and tripwires of every sort of conceivable method to, like, in case Rainbow Dash were to sneak into her room, she wouldn't be able to move anywhere without setting off some sort of alarm.
Applejack is prepared for the zombie apocalypse.
Somehow, despite all these defenses, Rainbow Dash is able to not just get Applejack out of the room, she's able to get Applejack and the entire bed out of the entire room while she's somehow sleeping. This is where I was like saying Rainbow Dash has become a goddamn ninja. Because she's sometimes, I mean, she rolled like a natural 20 on her stealth check on that. I mean, there is no way she would have been able to do that otherwise. But then again, we've got it sort of leads to the issues here where did I put it here? We've got, particular photos of, people shopping in other ponies or other things, replacing the, Applejack just waking up in bed next to the pig.
Yeah, that's one thing I did see when I saw that scene. I'm just like, this is gonna get interesting with that screen cap.
And
I can relate to Applejack there. I've slept through lightning striking our house before. Poor Luna.
And then we just kind of go a little meta here with this one here.
I thought it was going to be Applejack looking at herself.
Seen that one yet, actually.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised on that one. That would have been funny just to see, two Applejacks just laying next to each other, mirrored image.
Boy.
I think my other favorite kind of humor thing was definitely the Celestia cutaway with that whole thing with Spike with Spike constantly sending these letters and another one keeps falling on his head and he just looks so confused, and it cuts up to Rainbow Dash and she just has this big eyes, and someone just needs to caption that thing with "soon" under it. But then that cutaway to Celestia just kind of being buried under all those scrolls. I guess I did find that hilarious. And there was a comic that someone had made relating to that, because about how all these scrolls that Rainbow Dash was sending was just like Twilight's fan fictions or something like that, and Celestia was reading all of them. I forget exactly what but it was something along the lines of that, and that fan comic made me laugh.
Yeah, I didn't actually have this one, but Draconicus Media here just actually posted the perfect one here again with Ninja Dash in action with she drawing that sort of one unflattering picture of Shirley on the blackboard, and then somehow managing to appear out of the other side of the blackboard.
Oh yeah, Tim posted the pose, the Rainbow Dash pose. That's such a cute pose, and just caption that "soon" under it.
See, I think I have seen that on Derpy Boo. I just didn't bother to grab that one. The one that I had here. This is actually one of my favorites right here. I'm kind of upset that they didn't actually post the obvious follow-up to this one. Let me just go ahead and this is the obvious follow-up.
Oh God. We've had a good amount of Celestia cutaway gags, because we had the one in the Trixie episode. I forget the name, but we had the one in there too where they cut back to her at the end of the episode. She's still sitting there at the table with looking annoyed. She's been through a lot this season.
What else do we got here? Great. Let's say Pinky telling, or not Pinky, but Rainbow Dash telling Pinky about the cookie prank. Rainbow Dash actually tosses Pinky one of the cookies like a dog biscuit, and sure enough, Pinky actually jumps up and catches it, eating it much like a dog would. Sort of a background event where, when everyone was in town faking being zombies, you could see Rarity pull a comb out of nowhere and take the time to fix up her mane, despite acting like a zombie.
Yeah, Rarity's definitely doing a lot of stuff that you wouldn't really see her doing in previous seasons. She's okay with disheveling her mane a little bit now, as long as she's able to correct it ASAP.
Issue, similar brand of overthinking, like I mentioned about the possible subtle nod of the cupcakes reference. We did mention how Pound and Pumpkin are seemingly affected with the zombie apocalypse and going along with the gag, and you kind of have to wonder, did they just make a dead baby joke?
I guess technically.
Yeah.
Oh.
To love how the fact that we had when Pinky was gushing to the others about how Rainbow Dash got her good, and we had seen beforehand that all of these jokes that are pranks that Rainbow Dash had done on everyone was kind of over the top, but then all Pinky experience with Rainbow Dash is just Rainbow Dash just hanging upside down in her closet and simply going boo.
That was a really cute scene too.
you could see Gummy actually hanging upside down next to Dash and scaring Pinky along with her.
Oh my god. that Cranky in that linked image there is the stuff of nightmares there.
Oh, jeez.
See, anything else for humor?
No, I really can't think of it.
Okay, so then we can move on to animation and visuals. The one thing I really did want to point out, because it's something I noticed, is the freaking animation on Rainbow Dash holding onto the blackboard as it turns around. It just go frame by frame in that animation there. And it's just some really nice kind of pseudo 3D work on Rainbow Dash's character to kind of get her to kind of to have that 3D turnaround on the blackboard as Rainbow Dash is there. And that's another also hilarious scene that we didn't mention in the humor section when when Shirley turns the board over and has her with the stink lines on it, and then turns it around and suddenly Rainbow Dash is there. That was another funny one. That was another funny prank there. And also Shirley's reaction to it.
Literally chasing her. Yeah, that was great.
But yeah, if you get a second, go back and look at the animation frame by frame on that turnaround there, because someone did a good job on that kind of pseudo 3D work on Rainbow Dash's character there.
Some of the best animation I've seen for this particular situation was where did I see this here? It was when we first saw Pinky actually just sort of when she was that sort of zombified thing, when she sort of like that worm's eye shot of her emerging from the cupboard features probably one of the best lighting effects we've ever seen on the show, which really lends greatly to like legitimate creepiness of this factor here. Let me, I actually got the picture here right now. Let me go ahead and post it here. I mean, if I saw that leaning out of my cupboard, I'd probably not have a fun.
Yeah, and the one that Draconis Media linked a little bit further up there with the CMC as well, with lit up by that fallen lantern, is also really some good stuff there. I loved all the expressions and all of the ponies during the zombie scene there. They all had some really, really fun expressions on them. Did we see a derpy zombie? That's something I never actually went back to try and check and notice.
I don't think.
Because if we didn't, I am legit surprised.
I don't remember seeing one. I was like, now 4. I remember Ben joking when the episode was over, though, and somewhere in the background, Derby's still acting like a zombie because she didn't get the memo.
Yeah, the whole barn scene was great, just in terms of the feel and the look of it, and the lighting, that kind of very spooky lighting. The episode really did have that really horror, creepy feel to it at the end there. Even if the whole kind of cookie thing is a little bit, kind of funny, it actually really was a pretty little bit terrifying, especially for this show.
I was kind of getting to the point where when we was like getting back to the barn, I was kind of mentioning off to the side with Tim and Elliot. I was like, if you've got Rainbow Dash, you've got Applejack, you've got Rarity. If you consider the three CMCs, individually as like a group, if you consider all three of them has their own single individual pony, you basically got like a pony fight Left for Dead here, essentially. To be fair, I kind of almost.
I'm trying to think. I feel like I'm missing something that I wanted to save here, but I forget. One of the other things I noticed today when I went back and rewatched Griffin the Brush Off to try and get a refresher on that and to be able to compare it with today's episode, the animation was just the animation back then was still good and I remember it being good, but I haven't watched a season 1 episode in quite some time now, and of course we're all the way in the middle of season 6, and it's just struck me watching that finally again fresh, after not seeing a season 1 episode for a long time, and just coming and watching a season 6 episode at the same time, how far the animation this has come. Going back and just watching the character animation in Griffin the Brush Off, it wasn't bad, but it's come so much farther, and it's so much more expressive and so much more like almost handcrafted than it was back then. A lot of the animation then had a lot of motion tweens in it. It wasn't as expressive or as motion filled as it is now, and it was really like looking at night and day comparing season 1 and the animation in season 6 now. It really did struck me as I was trying to watch some of these scenes, and that's something I was really noticing trying to rewatch some of these scenes, was just how much better it's gotten and how different the animation really was back then. And it's not something you notice as you're just kind of watching the series slowly from start to finish or anything like that, but because that direct comparison was amazing. Okay, anything else for the animation and visuals that anyone wants to point out before we move on? You wouldn't even see Pinkie Pie coming if she was coming after you. She'd just kind of appear there and take you out. And yeah, a lot of that just again I posted that image earlier in the season when I noticed it, in terms of how many more animators are listed in the credits now versus even just the previous season, and especially versus season 1. Yeah, that's a good point, Tim, on that I forgot about, in terms of when we get to the zombies ponies, they all look really frazzled and their manes are a little off and have hair sticking out and misshapen, and their colors are actually very discorded as well. So they're pretty much the same kind of colors they have when they're discorded in that episode. It was a nice change of look for all of them, and not just for the main 6, but for all of the side characters that were featured in the, in the episode.
Now that you, how much more chaotic would this have gotten if Discord had actually been gotten involved in this sort of shenanigans?
Oh, he would have enjoyed this.
We need you to help, like prank Pinky, or not Pink. We need you to help prank Rainbow Dash. Huh? Got any suggestions? And I could just imagine like Discord just like cracking his knuckles and going all bippity boppity boo on this.
he would pull a Twilight and just like pull out a huge list just ready made of I have it right here. I'm all ready to go. I thought you'd never ask.
Wasted potential. Oh well. I mean, we do have a couple of from what I believe, if rumors are to be believed, I assume he's supposed to be making an appearance in a future episode not too far from here. But I don't want to go into any more detail than that, especially considering this is just rumors.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that he's going to be returning for at least one episode this season. I mean, he's always there, not usually this late in the season. Okay, let's... Okay, no song this week, but we did have a lot of great score and varied score from the beginning, where we have a little more of the humorous and the pranky nature of the episode, till we get to the horror aspect of it later, and some really great tense and horror themed music in here. So we'll let me just go ahead and load up the first track here. And we start off here directly with that kind of scary nature as Fluttershy is walking through the woods and Rainbow Dash scares her. If I can find my mouse. And this is some of the same kind of spooky score that we've gotten in previous Halloween-themed episodes or Nightmare Night-themed episodes. And so that one there is from the cold open there. So we start right away with that a little bit of tease for some of the horror themed score that we'll be getting later in the episode. But from there it takes a little bit more of a lighthearted nature as we get to more of Rainbow Dash's pranking. Fast forward a little bit in the episode here, and we get to the cake scene with Rarity. And this scene just has this fantastic tango music backing here that really stood out to me first watching it. It's some really good stuff here. So let's take a listen. So I really like that track. With that all the harpsichord and the tango style of it there. That one was really fun to listen to on its own, and helped add to the little bit of like the comedy of the scene as well, I think. The next one we have is the return of Polka to the show. This track, this Polka track, was over Rainbow Dash's pranking montage in the episode. This particular one isn't a new one for the series. This one first appeared last season in the one where Pinkie Pie knows, so obviously a Pinkie Pie episode, and that was featured in the montage in that episode. So it appears again and is used again here. It's a little bit longer and extended and has some different flourishes in it to match what's going on in the scene. So let's take a listen. love this part. Or in this case, Polka Dash. So that was the polka track. It was a little bit longer than its appearance last season. Definitely a lot of. I always like those polka tracks in here. Definitely something that is a kind of one of the trademarks, I guess, of the backing music in the series, especially with regards to Pinkie Pie. That theme of that melody of that song is actually based on the clarinet polka. It's very, very loosely based on that. You'll hear a lot. If you know what the clarinet polka is, you'll hear a lot of similarities with it. If you don't know what the clarinet polka is, you've definitely heard it in the past. If for instance, if you ever watched Charlie the Unicorn, it's the melody of the Candy Mountains song that they sing in that episode, in that short. That song is a parody and uses that same clarinet polka melody. So you'll hear a lot of similarities to that melody in this polka number here. So next here is now we get into the horror stuff here. Now this next scene is Pinkie Pie's scene, where Rainbow Dash is going in to see why she didn't show up, and she's starting to develop that cough and develop that sickness here. Ominous ending to there of that one. A lot of the world's smallest violin as Pinkie Pie really eats up the scene there with some of her sick acting. The next one we have is another montage track. This is the track from when the CMC and their sisters were out delivering cookies to the entire town. So this montage was just, allowing everyone watching the show to see that they delivered it to everyone. And this track here is, I believe, new to this episode. I don't recall hearing this one before. But here's the track that backed that montage scene. I will stop and say that the intro here, which happens directly before the montage, that is a motif that we have heard for the Apple family before. So that track shares some of the same bouncy nature and had some accordion in it like the polka track is, but the accordion isn't the focal point. It's not really as much of a polka, but it shares kind of a similar feel to that previous track with its bouncy nature and with the accordion in it. So now we're really going to get into the scary horror music for this. A lot of this stuff is going to be new stuff for the episode, and that new stuff is stuff we'll hear again in the credits of this episode. And a lot of it is some reused themes from previous Halloween or scary moment parts of different episodes from the past that you might recognize from before. So this is where start off here where Rainbow Dash is starting to know something wrong. So this will kind of progress as we get through these next few tracks from being kind of mysterious and eerie and foreboding to the more action horror as they're running, as Rainbow Dash is trying to flee from the zombies. Here comes that very foreboding score here.
The whole town got the cookies, and now everybody is shut up in their houses. You don't think there's something wrong with the joke? Mrs. Kate, have you seen Pinky? I was thinking I might have something to do with her not feeling great.
All those different, like, very mechanical, eerie, industrial sounds in the background, too, are great. So that now continues to progress in this next scene here, in the next track, as Rainbow Dash continues to run away and encounter more zombies in Ponyville. I believe this next track is when she, around the time when she confronts Rarity and Applejack in the CMC and informs them of the issue, and then they all start running away together as well. I believe, if my memory serves correctly, that this next track is also features some of the score that is featured in the credits of this week's episode. So let's dive in. The score definitely has all those scary violin string scratches in it as well, going up the octaves. Rarity must be talking. some nice fleeing music at the end of that track there. So now the next scene, the next track here is from the scene when they are all locked up and held up in the barn. Obviously, the climax here of the episode. So we'll hear a lot of those same horror motifs as we go through them boarding up to them turning on Dash and eventually almost getting her before the joke is revealed. Again with that slow start here as they're boarding up and just talking. Here's where Rarity turns. And so that's when everything is revealed, and it's revealed as a joke, and the episode kind of winds down from there. So the final track in the actual episode here is the resolution track for the lesson and the moral of the story. This one has a couple different themes, and it has one that I can't remember where it was used, but it's definitely been used for Pinkie Pie in the past, but I'm not sure if the actual episode. And then it goes in again to the magic of friendship motif, which we haven't heard for a little bit, as the lesson continues to be said. This is the one I know we've heard before for Pinkie. Now we'll drift into the magic of friendship motif, and this is one of the simpler variations of it. That cricket break there. Another motif that kind of that's been used in the series multiple times before takes us out at the end of that track. Now, obviously, another big thing about this episode is it actually has some actual credits music in it that isn't the MLP theme or Patton Oswalt talking over it like a couple weeks ago. So it's been a few episodes since we've had it. I'm not sure what the last one is. I think the last time we had credits music this season was in the Heartwarming Eve episode with the instrumental of the song. And we hadn't really had anything special in the credits other than the Patton Oswalt number at the end of that episode a couple weeks ago. So it's nice to see it mark a return here. I will say a lot of the other episodes that that didn't have credit score, a lot of the score in those episodes didn't really have anything substantial that would have that hadn't been used in the series a lot before that could have led to a credits number, or that hadn't been used before. So like last week's episode, we didn't have anything special in the credits, even though we had a lot of substantial score in the episode. But a lot of the episodes that we haven't had credits music in before have had pieces been used multiple times throughout the episode, including right before the credits. So like last week, they could have used like the montage music, but it was already used like twice or 3 times in the episode. So here, they use the part of the horror score that we heard in the episode, and I really like. This is like the new score that was for this episode, not the reused stuff that was also in there. And I really like this particular score that's featured in the credits because it has that old-timey horror, like old movie, classic movie horror. Very loud, a lot of violins in it, and very over the top in its sound. It's that kind of feel that you get that you'll hear in a lot of the horror music in the older movies. I think William Anderson captured that very, very well here for this episode, and it worked out pretty cool. So here's that short motif here in the credits. And it's mainly this beginning part that I'll play here really quickly. This beginning part is such like a dead ringer for a lot of the horror movie tracks from older horror, like black and white serial horror movies. Let me just play this again. There we go. That whole beginning there is it's like just a dead ringer to those kinds of scores. So it was really fun to hear that in this episode. It also has a oh my gosh, I forget what it's called. It's been a while since I've seen one of the instruments. It has the percussion with the scratching in it. The instrument almost looks like a pine cone with some notches in it, and you just kind of rub a drumstick around it, and it makes that kind of scratching sound. I forget what the instrument's called, but it has some of that in it as well. Just as an added
but I
effect.
can't think of what it is either.
Yeah, but you know what I'm talking about. I've used it before in school, in music class back in elementary school. I remember using it. But it adds a nice little feel to that score there as well. So that's it for the music of the episode. I really enjoyed it. I do like episodes like this where they play up on something, either like the Dragon's Quest episode or this episode with a horror theme, and other episodes like those where it allows some different kind of score to be featured in there, and allows William Anderson and Kelly Davidson to get a little creative with the score that they make and do something that isn't just kind of like the normal fare for a more simpler slice of life episode. Yeah, it seems like everyone at least knows what I'm talking about with that instrument, but who knows what it's called? It's a percussion instrument. So with that, let's move on. What does everyone think about the theme and the moral for this episode?
Well, let's see the moral on this here. Do I really have to say it?
Yes.
Well, as everyone knows, don't be a dick.
Don't be a dash.
Dick.
Yeah.
Don't be a dash.
Oh
my God! You actually found one, Mr. Ben. Oh, that's
yeah.
Perfect. I gotta say, it has to be. Someone had to have made that.
See, I was kind of surprised when I didn't see it earlier, but then again, I went ahead and I actually looked through Derpy Brew for that specific tag, and sure enough, it was like one of the first instances that came up. So I'm like,
go ahead.
So I'm like, how did I miss this the first time around?
In regards to the moral of this episode, I think it's a good one and something that could definitely speak to the internet savvy younger viewers as they're growing up. Now with I can't even imagine what it's like now growing up with high speed internet and all the stuff we have now, and actually being raised on that. But of course, on online and YouTube, everyone knows of the infamous prank channels with it's just a prank, bro, and they're doing something like actually harmful and not very that funny to someone, and calling it a prank when it's more likely an assault, like when Rainbow Dash puts the brick in Mr. Cake's sandwich. So in that way, in today's modern culture, it's definitely actually a pretty good moral about how pranking can be fun and can be funny, but you can easily go overboard and to the point where it becomes harmful to people, and you have to also be considerate about others like Fluttershy that might not be into that at all, and might not want to deal with that, and you got to think before you act and do stuff like that. So in today's modern culture, it's definitely a moral worth having, and it was pulled off very nicely and very humorously in the show, using it as an excuse to sneak some zombies in. Dude, not funny. It's just a prank, bro. You just chopped off your finger, not a big deal.
And it's also the same thing, because like some pranks kind of go differently for other people as well. One prank may cause someone to just roll on the ground laughing their tail off, and the exact same prank could piss someone off to like unbelievable levels.
Yep. Fluttershy was pretty peeved in that scene. I did like seeing her very peeved in that follow-up scene after the opening credits. Don't prank Fluttershy, guys. She'll get hairy on you. So with that, favorite parts and any concerns?
Pretty much my favorite parts was, like I mentioned, the Kate gag with the sewing machine. Pretty much any instance of Rainbow Dash just basically being a ninja, such as like being able to just ninja Applejack and her entire bed out of her room, just appear on the back of Cheerilee's spinning blackboard, among others.
Yeah, I really like the humor. Obviously, I really like what they did with the whole zombie thing, and that they pulled it off really well and pulled off some actual, pretty good horror scenes in the episode that weren't just kind of, obviously over the top for a joke. They actually had some pretty frightening scenes in there, and I did like just a lot of the continuity that they did throw in the episode. In terms of, I've already kind of gone over a few of the minor concerns I had, just in terms of some of the continuity characterizations. It's stuff that the episode itself on its own is really not any problems at all with it. But when you look at some of the series as a whole and some of the continuity, there's a few things that irked me that I already went into. Won't go into it again. But overall, it was a very strong, very funny episode.
I have to admit, again, I do like the instances of the voice acting with Pinky just sort of giving that sort of guttural growl going into the cookies thing. and Tabitha just sort of just doing that again, that immediate shift in tone, like, oh, we would have loved to help you, darling, but we already ate them.
Yeah, the rainbow mouth thing was nice too. So overall feelings and conclusions from everyone on the episode?
Let's see. I'd say this episode's face of the episode was either Pinky giving that sort of wild take with her eyes bugging out and her tongue waving out of her mouth, or Princess Celestia's, deja vu expression. I was like, oh, not this again.
Cookies.
Oh, look at what I posted in the chat.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, here.
I was just changing my mind. I think after I heard all the cookies thing, I kind of expected somebody making names like that.
It's everyone's worst nightmare. Tons of cookie monsters. Now, what episode doesn't get attacked plenty these days anyway?
Just doctor in or edit in basically a scene in this episode where like a zombified Michael Jackson pony just sort of begins leading Thriller in the middle of the town.
I overall I think this was a good episode. I overall enjoyed it. The second half of it was really good and really fun, especially once we get into the whole zombie thing. And the character use in that half was great. I think they pulled up the zombie thing really well, and it was really enjoyable to watch this weekend. It's not the most basic episode we've had this season. I mean, it had the whole zombie thing in it, so it was definitely one of those episodes that had one of those little hooks that wasn't just like a really simple life slice of life episode like we've had a few, like the spa one with Applejack and Rarity was a little bit more of a simple episode. Had a very simple premise, but then it went kind of to that second level, sort of like how we had with Bats, where it had like a more slice of life opening to it that quickly turned into some horror kind of stuff, with Fluttershy turning into the Bat Pony in that episode.
Shenanigans in the beginning of the episode. This whole episode here with the whole zombie invasion thing could easily be written off as like some sort of a Twilight fucks up another magic spell fanfic.
It's all Twilight's fault, as usual.
Yeah.
So anyway, thanks for joining us this week for Triple E. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun talking this. So as always, make sure if you ever miss an episode of Triple E or want to rewatch it, we do have them on our YouTube channel here, which we are streaming to right now. So it'll be out probably very late tonight on there once it's done with all of its processing for it. And we also have all the previous ones. We have almost all of the Triple E episodes up now. I think we may have like 5 more, maybe a little bit more than that I still need to upload. So you can check them out on our YouTube channel. We do a playlist there, or check them out on our website. Just go to the shows tab up top and scroll down to Eat Triple E and go to our archives, and they're all listed there. Have Discus comments on them if you want to leave a comment. And if you ever miss an episode or want to rewatch one, they're all there. So make sure to look at that, and make sure to check out our Discus forums as well, which are linked on the front page, where we have all of our episode discussions. Thanks, EJ, for getting one up this week for me on Saturday. So if you ever want to feel like discussing an episode or have any points to make, or just want to leave a quick comment about an episode or a future episode, make sure to check out our Discus forums as well. Besides that, this weekend, and it will have... you can infer a lot from the title of this episode, so sorry for title spoilers if you haven't seen it already. This week's episode is The Times Are a Changeling. So you can obviously infer a lot from that title. So we'll be watching that this weekend, and we will be discussing that next week on Triple E. 95% chance we'll be at our regular time next week at Tuesday at 5 p.m. 5% chance we might have a schedule conflict and have to move Triple E to Monday at 5 p.m. instead of Tuesday. Just make sure to check our Twitter and our schedule. We'll let you know on there if it changes. If you don't hear anything, then it'll be next Tuesday at 5 p.m. as normal. So definitely from the sound of the title, we will be having a lot to talk about next week. If you want to talk about it now, make sure to go over to the Crystal Empire chat to talk spoilers, or check out the CinemaQuestria spoilers discussion forum linked on our front page. So definitely going to be interesting. Oh, we'll miss you, Tim. That sucks. It's gonna be a good episode. Feel it already. So thanks you all for joining us so much today. It's my pleasure for that, and we'll make sure to see you next week for Triple E.